What are we under? Hello, social media world. I'm popping up tonight for a very, very special conversation. Sitting with me tonight is four awesome builders from around Australia that I sit with every single Monday night. Normally, there's a couple of other guys here. Unfortunately, they're not here today, so which is okay because I've actually asked these awesome men to step up and join me and have a conversation live because we've been doing this for roughly 18 months now. And the conversations we have every single week are absolutely phenomenal. But tonight's conversation is something that I really want to bring to the table for a couple of reasons. One, I had an incident last week where I've actually sat and asked the builders here how they would deal with the situation, and I think it's really relevant to the building industry and how we can look after one another better as humans. But the thing that really brought this conversation to a head was I was asking the guys, what is emotional intelligence? And each one of these builders is a part of a network group, Builders Business Black Belt, that focuses on the higher purpose, focuses on better communication. Sitting here in front of me is four builders who are all doing very well in a time when you wouldn't believe builders are doing well. But these guys are because of the support they put around each other, because of the conversations we have. So firstly, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for agreeing to come live and actually have a discussion like we do on a Monday night. So thank you. I'm going to go around the room quickly. Hugh Bagger. Hugh, New Rom Homes, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
You were live on Wednesday night, and I was very, very grateful for that. Safe Place to Land, Monday night. What's it doing for you? We're in 1 minute.
Oh, you want me to do an elevator pitch, do you?
Yeah, go for
it. Let's see if I can condense it into 9 seconds then. Bunch of guys, being guys, but talking about the stuff that's never talked about.
Giddy up. Beautiful. Thank you. How's that sit in your heart?
Perfectly.
Beautiful. Thank you. Adrian, welcome in.
Thanks, mate.
Safe Place to Land. What's that do for you? 30 seconds to a minute.
Similar to Viewbag, it's basically just getting together to decompress with the guys about work, relationships, life, in a safe space where we're all similar but different. It's just good to be able to get together and decompress with guys you trust, and you can actually have a proper discussion, have a laugh, but then, talk seriously when the time's right.
Beautiful. Thank you. Josh.
Yo.
Same question.
I love coming to Monday nights. It's interesting you say that builders aren't doing very well at the moment, but these guys are. I wouldn't be where I am now without Monday Night Mash over the last 12 months, especially for me. The journey I've been through, it's just been great to have a tight community of lads that you can rely on every Monday night. That, rain, hail or shine, whether it's good or bad, chat, you've got someone there to support you and work through things. So, this is a very important space for me, and it sits in a very high place in my ticker. So,
thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. Joel.
Yes, talking about all the gory bits of life that not many people talk about. Just getting it out there, which I kind of look forward to, and breaking things down and pulling it apart and trying to work out what's going on, I guess, within yourself. So,
yeah, brilliant, and I love that. Thank you. So, and I'm just going to go around quickly. Where you're from, Hugh?
Greater Eastern Suburbs of Melbourne. It's a bit cold here, but it's nice.
Perfect. Thank you, Adrian. Whereabouts are you?
Peninsula based in Melbourne.
Beautiful. Josh, whereabouts are you?
Jindabyne, Snowy Mountains.
Giddy up. Joel, where are you?
Rockhampton, Central Queensland.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Oh, so clearly builders from around Australia getting together and having a yarn. But today, I posed a question earlier, and I'm going to go straight down to you, Joel. This was great because one of the things that, builders, they're normally in society, they're a bit rougher. They don't really know how to communicate very well. And here we are talking about emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence to you, Joel?
I think Hugh answered this quite well. But yeah, I think it's more around understanding how your own emotions work, and knowing what I guess another person needs at a specific time based on how they're reacting or reacting or what they're going through at that specific time, and knowing, for example, if someone's just wanting to have a rant, like, don't offer them advice, just listen and let them go, because offering advice is going to piss them off more than it will if you were just to sit there and let them have it out.
How has that played out in your life, understanding that?
Oh, massive. It's like, now I understand, depending on the situation, what that person needs in that particular moment. How to respond or react, or how to set yourself up for that situation to make that other person, give them the oxygen or air they need at that point in time.
Yeah, brilliant. Do you use that just in your work life, or do you use it outside of work as well?
Oh, it's everywhere. It's, and I think sometimes you've got to be present, because quite often I know that, it's not hard to just zip by it. And then you realize later on, after that situation's passed, you're like, oh, this is what that person was needing. But, sometimes you get caught up in the bit of the whirlwind and your own stuff to realize sometimes. But at the same point, you can't do it for everyone as well.
100%. But what would you do if that was a situation where you felt that wasn't handled well? But would you go back to it, or would you leave it?
Depends on the situation. If it was depending on if it was just, if it wasn't anything major, but if there was a bit more to that they wanted to get out, then yeah, I'd go back and give them a call or whatever it may be. But yeah, it depends on the situation.
Yeah, brilliant. What would be the advantage of calling them back and actually having a conversation?
I guess that person would know that you obviously care about him and give it to him.
I'm sorry, I'm putting you under the spot right now, but but that's all right. We open up things, and this is basically what we're doing on Monday night anyway. So thank you. I'm going to ask Hugh, if that's all right. Emotional intelligence. What's that for you?
Well, I think like for Joel, it's the ability of somebody to be able to understand their emotions, what's going on, be able to manage them, but also be able to have the compassion and the ability to see what other people are doing emotionally as well, and how they're managing themselves. The emotional intelligence comes in so many different sort of facets, that being able to understand somebody without judging them, and without sort of taking on your emotions and reacting in a certain way if somebody else is going through some tough times or going through an emotional sort of upheaval, I guess you could say, as well. But to be able to manage all of that and do it effectively, that is, to me, that's what emotional intelligence sort of signifies and gives out there into the world as well.
Yeah, beautiful. So how long have you understood emotional intelligence to be like that?
Ooh. It's been a while. It's probably been 12, 13 years since I really started sort of diving into the whole emotional intelligence sort of space. And after reading a couple of books on emotional intelligence, and sort of, even though they're mind-numbing books to read, because it's all the psychological mind bending sort of stuff where you read it, and most of the time I was reading it when I was sort of going to sleep, so it would put me to sleep, reading about how the hypothalamus is talking to another part of your brain and all that sort of thing. But it was just sort of reading through all of that, really sort of started the journey on being able to understand it from someone that was really pushing a lot of that emotion aside.
Yeah, brilliant. So you're pushing it aside, and you're a builder, and you focus on emotional intelligence.
Yep.
Why, as a builder, would you be focusing on emotional intelligence?
Because if we want to be able to be good for somebody else, we've got to be good within ourselves.
Ooh, I like that. So looking after
That's a good
self
one.
first. That's a good one. I love it. So thank you, Hugh. Josh, Emotional intelligence. Now, you had an answer earlier that I'm not even going to go to, but just go for it.
I see it as emotional awareness. A lot of people aren't really truly aware of their emotions, and my biggest thing I've learnt in the last few years is living in that space between stimulus and response. And I think I say it all the time. But yeah, that's my favourite place to be at the moment. It's super uncomfortable, but that's where you grow. So yeah, like just having that ability to know how you or someone else is reacting and being able to stop there and sit with it and go, what's going on here? And then unpack it from there.
So what is that? The stimulus and response. For those that don't know of that terminology, what is that?
I can't remember which book I read it in. You might be able to remember it, but
I think you might find 7 Habits.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. So yeah, 7 Habits. We focus a lot on habit 5. To be understood, you must first seek to understand. And so, every issue on site is always, a communication-based issue, but it all dials back to emotion and how people are handling them. So, it's a blow-up between the crew. There's normally, something that stimulated a response. And if you can sit in that space between there, you can generally find out what's going on and unpack it from there. So it saved me a lot of grief as far as not sacking people that work for me. Especially when you're stressed and there's a lot going on, there's definitely been some outcomes that have been better for living in that space rather than letting the Italian blood run riot and hack everyone down at the kneecaps.
What was that your scenario in previous years?
Not so much. I've always been slow to get angry. That's probably one of my biggest values is slow to anger. But yeah, definitely not having that awareness. And then I think just talking to anyone else, you're aware of them. You're aware of how their emotions are playing out in front of you, and just that ability to have a bit of empathy and go, hang on, there might be something more at play here, or and then like what Joel just said and what Hugh just said, you can give them the air that they need, and you can listen to hear rather than offer a solution, and just things like that. Just having that in your repertoire instead of just trying to fix everything or not listening at all. Or yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. So, Adrian, emotional intelligence, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I was going to start with a similar line to Josh. It's like emotional awareness to me. So it's about, I guess, diving into understanding the situation. I think I mentioned when we were having a brief chat earlier, it's about, if you're getting annoyed about something, whether that's at work or with your partner or whatever, rather than just flying off and saying, oh, that's them being whatever. It's about understanding the situation as to why it's played out, how it could be done better, rather than just putting it down to, they're just in a shit mood or whatever. Or maybe they're not having a great day. Why is that? Maybe I can help with that thing. Or if you're angry about something, why am I angry about this, or why am I emotional about this? Actually digging into it and saying, well, okay, is there something deeper here that I need to look at, as opposed to just, that's just how I feel, whatever, move on, and just kind of living in that space.
How's that benefited you by actually going into conversations rather than avoiding it, going into it and understanding it more?
It's benefited me a lot, Scotty. I probably went on this journey a couple of years ago after I got separated, after being married for quite a number of years. And it's, you just kind of hit that fork in the road where you go, well, you just be the bitter piece of shit separated person, the world's no good, poor me, or you start delving into, well, why has this happened? What can I do better? How can I be better in the future? And that's probably, that was probably about 3 years ago for me, where you start diving into, well, maybe I can be a better human. Maybe I can learn from this and be better in the future. That's probably, where it's benefited me a lot. And then that flows on to work. It's not just, emotional intelligence in your relationship. It's about, you know, with clients, like you saying, with clients, with subbies, with staff. You know, the better relationships you have, the better process and smoother it is for everyone. You know, we've all tried over the years the different tactics of yelling and screaming and all the rest of it. And the old saying, you know, you get more bees with honey. Yeah, sometimes you need to use vinegar as well. But the reality is, in most situations, you start with the honey. And yeah, if you can make that work and everyone feels good about it, then it's a better situation. It's not to say there's not hard discussions to be had at times. And, you know, it's not always going to be beer and Skittles. There'll be some uncomfortableness in there as well. But yeah, it's about, again, understanding when you need to have those hard discussions, which kind of comes back to that emotional awareness as well. Like, well, this is a situation where I've just got to rip the scab off and have the hard discussion rather than letting it mellow and then building up to something else.
Yeah, I love it. Now, so this is something that I'm pretty passionate about. Where do you have the discussion before you have the discussion if it's a super important one?
Say that again.
So before you, if it's a super important discussion that you need to have, where do you have that before you have that big discussion?
In a particular scenario with personal or work or
Either.
it's whether you want to have it with yourself or whether you do have someone, you know, that you want to explore that with, even if it's with, you know, like what we do with our Safe Place to Land on Mondays, where there is something you're struggling with from a relationship point of view, whether you know, sit down and have that discussion with guys like that are here now and say, well, this is the situation I'm in and this is how I'm feeling about it. And this is, you know, because sometimes when you step back or you're not emotionally attached to the situation, then you see things very differently. And sometimes if someone points it out to you and says, well, maybe it's just this, mate. Like maybe, you know, maybe they're in this scenario, or maybe you can try this, and kind of penny drops. And you're like, yeah, but when you're so caught up in it. So yeah, I think sometimes it's good to maybe rehearse it with yourself, but it's also good to run it by someone you think might have the ability just to listen and take it all in and then say, well, have you thought about this? Not necessarily looking for someone to solve the problem, but have you thought about it from this angle? Have you thought this could maybe be a solution?
Yeah, giddy up. I love it. And I just want to throw this to you because I think this is awesome. Just in retrospect to your comment there. Great insight, guys. So many people break up and shift blame onto ex-partners. I've been there. To bring it back to yourself is so powerful. What you can control. So that's a big kudos right there for you, Adrian. That was pretty cool. So thank you for that comment. I'm just going to ask Phil the same question, if that's all right. Thank you very much for your answer, Adrian. Phil, I'll bring you in.
All right, well, you know,
How are you, mate? Emotional intelligence. What's emotional intelligence to you?
where do you start? Well, you know, I've been on a hell of a journey, mate. So, yeah, it's one of those. I guess for me, it was a massive mindset shift for me to be what I used to do to what I do now. Like Adrian says, a lot to do with this group and a lot to do with the group in before and two. So I was one of those angry people. Really easy to fly off the handle, growl at everyone. They're not doing it right, never have been. I knew the best. For someone to open up your eyes and sit back and have a look and actually completely change the way, well, gee, that's a lot better job.
Thanks, mate.
It's a different perspective. So, you know, to finally open up your own feelings to why you're doing it, I think is the key point.
I love that. Sorry.
You know,
Yep.
to realise that, you know, sometimes it might be you more than someone else. Like you said, that understanding, the journey on going to probably look at yourself a little bit more than what you actually, instead of someone else, and try and understand maybe why they're doing that. It's been a huge factor. So, you know, it's a snowball effect. Once you start start on something, it tends to keep on going. So it's a challenge sometimes. Been there and done that. I'm lucky enough to still have my wife. She's an absolute champion, but there was times there where I was about to give up. So to be woken up and to have a look with a different set of eyes, I guess it was at the end of the day, it changes things a lot.
Yeah, and I love that, and I really appreciate you sharing that, because it's a journey. And the one thing that I'm looking at the screen now, Phil, we're a different vintage from these younger blokes, and coming into it, like, we grew up in a very different era where you were ruled with an iron fist, right? You were told what to do, and no uncertain terms you did it. Otherwise, you'd cop full retribution. So to turn around now and to have this builders, we'll sit here, talk about emotional intelligence, talk about how they're working from their hearts and how that's been implemented not only into their work life, but into their personal life. It's extraordinary. And the difference for you has been through the roof on family levels, on levels with business. Can you share that with us?
With me,
Yeah.
it's where I started.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit of a story.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess I started laying in a hospital bed, a bit broken ribs and stuff, where I fell 4 floors. So I was about ready to give everything up. Managed to find a group. It's called BBB. So jumped on that, and I don't think I've really read many books in my life. Joined this group. First thing he got me to do was read a book, which was probably the turning point for me, I suppose. And thought, righto, we'll have a bit of a crack here and have a bit of a look at it. And I don't know how many books I've read now in the last 3 years. I've lost count, which has been an amazing journey. And to be around a community that actually everyone supports you. But with my business and my life, it was going down a very dark tunnel. So to realise I wasn't the only one going through it was probably the best thing. And then to find a group of people that you can share your difficulties with and design a roadmap to get to where you want to go. I guess one of the part of that group was that it wasn't just for business, it was personal as well, which basically ended up saving my marriage and my family, and probably my own life as well, because I wasn't going down to the place. So to land on something like that when you was about to give up everything, hospital bed was pretty amazing. And then, of course, the safe place to land is part of that as well, which is probably one of the best places I've come to now. It's really, really rewarding to sit here with these younger blokes and live a bit of a life through their eyes and their journey. But again, it's one of those things that unless you're really ready to open up and have an open mind, change your thinking and what's been bred into you and what you said, Scott, from day one, nothing will change. But if you're willing to take a risk and open up a little bit, sky's the limit. What we're doing now, you asked me 3 years ago where I'll be now, I'd say hell no way. So that's a very short story in a nutshell.
No, I appreciate it, because one of the things that when we do talk about work, but I'm not here as a business coach or anything like that. I'm only here to support the big conversations we need to have away from work. Happy to talk about how we deal with employees, how we can communicate better at site. But I do not give any business structure whatsoever. That's not my cup of tea. But I adore you guys. I adore you men for actually turning up and actually talking about all the important things in life. But I'm actually going to ask for your advice. And I'm going to go around the room and ask, because I had a situation last week. And the main reason I actually want everybody to actually go. There we go. Sorry, I'm just trying to work out all my bits and pieces. My tech. If you know me, you know that my tech is not the best, but I'm getting better slowly. I lost all the comments, which was great. That book, Lisa, that was actually The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. It's one of the best books I've ever read, and implement a lot of the things out of that. Something that's actually really cool, guys, is Matty Allen's over there in the UK, and he's watching this live, so which is pretty cool. It's good for Matty to see builders talking like this. But what I really want to talk about right now is an incident that happened last week, because I want your advice on how we need to deal with people on site. Because last week it was Wednesday. I was coming back from the city, and there was a guy that I just happened to know, and just through the work I do outside of everything. And middle of winter, he's in his underwear, and he's a real mess. He's outside a building site, and the guys on site are giving him hell. He's clearly in a bad way. I was fuming. As representatives of your own building businesses, how would you want your staff to deal with this? Because I was irate. So, and I'm very grateful that Hugh picked up the phone and called me when I was trying to do it live, because it turned out that I'll actually give the scenario quickly. So I've gone past, pulled over, gone up to him, had a quick conversation, checked out where he's at. Okay, he wasn't quite with us at that point. So I'm like, what can I do? Do I put him in my car? Do I take him to the hospital? I'm like, I'm not quite sure where he's at. I don't know how stable he is. If I put him in my car and I'm driving, something happens, I'm like, possibly not. So what do? What can I do at this point? I need to put something over him. School's about to finish soon, so I was on my way to pick up Oscar. So we're going to have mums and kids walking the streets. What can we do? We've got levels of fear everywhere. So I ran to the library, asked them for the lost property. They didn't have any. Then I found a clothing alteration point shop where I ran in. And I said, listen, I just need anything at all, whatever you got. It's waffle, guy across the road. Oh, there's an electrician wiring up the subboard. He's literally taken his jumper off, handed it to me, and said, mate, just give him this. I'm like, sure. You haven't got anything else? He goes, mate, you guys got plenty of jumpers in the car. I said, grouse. Run over, popped it on him. So I'm going to start with you, please, Josh. What would you want to see? What would you want to see from your staff in a situation like that?
Probably the way the Sparky reacted, to be honest. I think my crew would probably, act in the interest of the bloke that, was walking around, especially where we live, because it's pretty cold at the moment. So if you're in your undies, you're probably going to have a bad time. But yeah, like if there was an adverse reaction, and I found out my staff were not handling things well enough. They know we've got certain values within our business that are pretty well communicated through everything. So like through all our meetings and stuff that we have as a team. So, I think they know what I would expect. And moving forward, if they didn't react in a way that I saw was the professional reaction, which at the end of the day, it shouldn't be professional. We're all human beings. It should just be like, you see someone suffering out on the street, you go and give them the jumper off your back. Like that's the thing that's missing from society. So, but if it didn't happen, I'd want to sit them down and go, guys, what's going on? Like, what's going on there? How come you guys didn't want to, address what was happening? And, it could be that they don't know how to deal with it. So they just, revert back to the thing that they know best, which is as a tradie, we all just take the piss out of everyone. That's a pretty safe thing to go back to as a fallback response. I think just like chatting it out with your staff and I mean, where we live in Jindabyne, it's transient. There's kids coming to do seasons every year. So like we see that a fair bit anyway. You see kids walking back on a Thursday morning after pay night. It hasn't been too far from our lives where we've ended up, chucking a jumper on someone and going, mate, like just give us your number and we'll come pick it up when you get home. Like, well, half the time they drop it back when they're sober, you know. So, and like where we live, if someone's walking around in their undies, they're gonna get hypothermia or some frostbite or something like that if it's cold enough. So, you don't want to see that with anyone. It's only a jumper, like. So yeah, I think my guys would probably get the benefit of the doubt that they'd be able to handle it. But yeah, that's how I would attack it.
Nah, brilliant, and thank you for that. I love the love part for me that I love more than anything, the humanness of it. I really value that, because that's something we talk about a lot inside what we do on a Monday night, which is normal. This is normally a closed group. So to have you guys actually share this live, I think is so valuable for so many reasons. And I really appreciate you doing this for this purpose. Adrian, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, it's similar to Josh, really. It's just about, I think you summed it up pretty much in the word of just humanness. It's, think about it, if it was your son, brother, dad, cousin, whatever, and you know, it's, as Josh said, it's very easy to, you know, take the piss out of someone, and as blokes, as builders, rough and tough, that's what we do. But it's not, when you break it down, if they are someone that meant something to you, it shouldn't be just meaning something to you, but, you know, put yourself in their position. They've obviously got probably something going on in their own life where they've got to that position. You rarely just wake up one morning and find yourself in that position. It's usually a number of twists and turns that gets you there. So just doing the right thing, which is just not done enough. It's not even, I don't even think it's the norm anymore. Just doing the right thing by people.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Adrian. Joel. Hang on a sec.
There we go. Sorry.
That's all right.
I
Go.
had to hit the mute button. As like, I think it's hard for a lot of people when it comes to like looking at a person if they're not, you know, in the right space, and someone hasn't been in that space, and they kind of, I guess it can react a lot of fear in people too. Like, and then that just pushes I guess, an act of judgment across. But going back to your question, you would like to hope, I know, like my boys know what they're like, and I'd like to hope that it react in the way that's sort of what Adrian and Josh said too. Like it's the values in what we do, and we show up to work every day, and what we do for other people building, you know, whether we're building or, you know, helping someone else on the street, it's who you are as a core, I guess, too. So it shouldn't really matter who it is or what it is, I guess.
I love that. It's who we are at the core. And I love that, because we're human, right? And it's something that I'll share in a minute, that I love what this represents. So I appreciate that, Joel. So Phil, you're down there in Tassie. So what's the name of your company?
That's PA Dance Builders.
Beautiful. So
Yeah,
hearing that, was anything different you would add to that?
I guess I love my family so much. I suppose it's if I look at that as one of my kids just down on the ground and getting a bit of trouble or whatever. I guess it's stemming to what basically happened this afternoon. Probably a bit off track, but my little girl had a little bit of a fight with another girl. It's probably all on social media at the moment. For a stranger parent to step in and grab my girl and bring her home to my doorstep was amazing. So I hope I'm the same. I know I've stepped in the middle of fights where my wife has said, "What are you doing?" I'm saying, "Well, enough's enough." I guess that's the way a few of us are. And you know, to actually have that happen this afternoon, for that, you know, when this other mother brings my child up and she's crying as well as my child, it was pretty amazing, pretty special. But I guess, you know, exactly the same situation he was in, you know, for you to get out and help. I know a lot of us been in it. I know a lot of my own workers would get in and help that, and I probably know two that would, but only with other situations they've been in themselves that probably stopped them from doing it. But yeah, it's, you know, a protective thing that sometimes you need to help someone out that's probably not in the right space where they are. So I know I would. I know a lot of the workers would, and it's just something I'm more instead of just sitting there and having a thought instead and making a laugh and joke about it.
I really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Phil. So, Hugh Bagger. So, firstly, Hugh, I've got a big thank you to you to help me fill the gap between stimulus and response, because I was steaming at this. If you know me, it's one thing that I really care about. That's people, and I cannot handle people ripping people apart when they're in pain. And so from my heart to yours, I'm so grateful that we do this regularly. I'm so grateful that you're part of my world and part of my life to be able to pick up the phone and grab me in a moment that I was challenged. So it was, yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say, challenge would probably be a little bit more of an understatement in the moment. When I saw your face sort of pop up and the way that you were vocalizing everything, could see the steam coming out of your ears, and could see how frustrated you were that you'd just seen something like that happening, and the people that were involved just had no clue, or seemingly had no clue.
Yeah, and that right there is the very thing I want to grab, because at that time, because of my life experiences, I understood that situation very differently to what they did. And speaking to you, it's speaking to my guys that I speak to every week about how better to handle this. The best way to do it is together. The best way to do it is actually find a way to have a conversation, find a way to be able to bring it together and educate and talk about what actually happened and what can be done better. And I'm so grateful that I get to sit with you guys and have these discussions to make my world better too, because it's really important. So I'm actually not going to go on too much longer because I really want to have a chat with Phil. I've had a chat with the boys. This is absolutely just a pop-up. This is not something we do regularly. We've been doing this for 18 months with builders, right? Have a good look at the men on screen. They're men challenging life. They're men growing, but they're also builders who sit here and talk about emotional awareness, which I'm no longer calling it emotional intelligence. That's sacked. Emotional awareness. That's where I'm running it from. And they find personal growth through reading books like The 7 Habits. Highly effective people. They've got coaches in their life that help them with their business. They've got coaches in life that, not the coach, just some random dude that pops up and has a conversation with them.
Yeah, coaching up.
Yeah, coaching up. But this is life. We work through life scenarios and we become better humans because we do this. So my challenge to you is, where do you get to become a better human? What are the things that you take on board so that we together have an understanding like this? Tell you what, I've sat with these men and there's going to be some videos coming out in the very near future. What is it that we really like in women? That video is coming up soon. Positive male traits will be a discussion that we're going to have amongst men that I know choose to live with love in their heart. So if you've enjoyed tonight, put something in the comments. Let us know, because I don't know, there's a lot of wisdom sitting on this screen. Maybe one day I can get them to pop up again and we can have more conversations. So I'm going to ask you guys with one word, please, if that's all right, to finish up. One word, a safe place to land. What is it? Phil, one word.
Safe.
Beautiful. Joel.
Yeah, that's where my brain went to.
Beautiful. Josh.
Community.
Adrian.
Yeah, I can say camaraderie.
Yeah.
Safe as well.
Done. Okay. On that note, thanks everybody. I'm going back to just the blokes having a yarn so we can have a giggle as well. It's not all serious.
You're all
Anyway,
best
look,
behaviour.
I know.
Behaving.
Congratulations, guys, for not dropping any bombs. But I do want to just.
It's
I
coming.
do want to say this, right? Because this is something. If we can have conversations like this more regularly, I think it's amazing. This one's good on you, Scott and the Builders. Awesome to see this. You know, that's Maddie from over there in the UK who runs We Are the Miracle. All right. If he's happy with seeing this, I've got to tell you, there's got to be more conversations going on like this around the world because it's a great place in which we live in when we do. So thank you so much, guys. Phil, thank you. Joel, Josh, Adrian, and Hugh, thank you so much for jumping on live. Don't go anywhere, guys, because I'm just going to end the broadcast if I can find the button.
Where's the button?
Oh.
Dum, 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 dum.